All
How's it
right.
going, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Investment Realtors and Go to Realtors podcast.
Correct.
Lewis
Justin?
here, Justin.
Lewis.
So on today's episode, just a couple questions we had from clients asking about stuff around the market.
Yeah.
I guess we could start it with the 3-day cooling off period we've been asked a lot about in BC.
Yeah. I mean, even though it kind of isn't in our market yet, it is something that probably might make its way over. I mean,
Yeah, it could.
in BC, there's no more double dipping. Double dipping, for people who don't know.
In real estate talk.
In real estate jargon is when the listing agent also represents the buyer.
Yes.
So
yep.
it's essentially double dipping. They've gotten rid of that in BC to kind of keep it more fair. So,
Which, in a way, it kind of makes sense. I
Absolutely.
mean, there's a lot of shady things that happens when the selling agent does represent the buying agent.
yeah, that is fair. I mean, we're all kind of governed by the same kind of code and ethics. Of course, it always takes just the one bad one of the bunch to kind of ruin it for everyone else. So, I mean,
Like everything.
yeah, I guess that is good. It'll be curious to see if that comes here. But
And I think we did mention on one of the episodes about like the responsibilities of the buying agent.
yeah, like
and the
fiduciary
duties and stuff.
I'm
So
pretty sure we touched on that.
in a way, when you think about it,
Mhm.
if a seller is representing the buyer,
Yeah.
their duty for the buyer is basically just a pencil pusher. They're just there to make sure you sign it
Yeah.
and everything. All the dots are all the I's are dotted and all the T's
These
are crossed.
Yeah.
right?
That's
So,
fair.
I mean, in a way, it makes sense. But the closing off, the 3-day
Cooling off period. Yeah.
cooling
Why
off
don't you
period.
take us through it and kind of explain what it is?
First, I'm gonna read what the definition is.
Okay.
From what the
Makes sense.
BC government kind of explains. So the cooling off period in BC, also known as the home buyer's rescission period,
Mhm.
is a new 3-day period that provides the buyer an opportunity to rescind, aka cancel,
Yeah.
their contract of purchase and sale after an offer is accepted with a financial penalty. This is effective in British Columbia as of January 3rd, 2023, but it kind of just started taking effect recently with new ones. So what are your thoughts on the cooling off period?
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. Why do you think that BC would have brought forth? Like, obviously, with the whole double dipping, there must have been a lot of issues with agents maybe not being as truthful or as honest as they should be,
Yeah,
representing
probably.
both the buyer and seller. So with this cooling off period, obviously, it came after that whole crazy COVID frenzy.
It probably had a lot to do with that.
Where what we've seen in the market is, all the winners of those multiple offers last year aren't the winners, because you got so caught up on the fear of missing out that you were going in firm, no conditions, paying crazy hundreds of thousands of dollars over the price of what these houses should have been. So I mean, I would imagine that's probably why they brought it in. But like everything else, now it's going to stay a law, which is good. I mean, maybe it'll keep kind of that buzz down or that next push, because
it could.
Here in Ontario, we're still seeing lack of inventory. And I mean, these buyers are pretty much the ones we're seeing in this market are good to go. During the COVID, we've seen that the sellers had all of the power and they were kind of unrealistic.
And now it's reverting back.
But at the end of the day, lack of inventory, I would still say that the cards are more in the seller's hands than the buyers.
Sure. Unless they have to sell, they don't have to sell.
Exactly. And I'm sure a lot of people do have to sell, because like we read on these articles that are always gloom that, prices are crazy. People can't afford an unexpected bill. They're running out of savings.
So the article we read this morning was most people, was it
$500? They couldn't afford a $500 unexpected like bill or cost, which makes sense. I mean, we've read articles on people with 2 vehicles in the family down to 1. We've read people cutting back on red meats and more expensive things like that they're skipping meals. I mean, you put all of this together, it's a kind of a sad picture, and it really is. I mean, this is affecting the everyday Canadian that is just working, to live the Canadian dream, to get by, to support their family. And it's, what kind of life is that, where you have to worry about everything you're doing and you have to kind of mitigate your costs? I mean, it's...
Well, in terms of this 3-day cooling off period, like anything the government does, I feel anytime they make a law or a step to kind of save people from themselves, it takes away all personal responsibility for the person. So if they make a rule saying no matter what, everybody's going to have a 3-day cooling period, okay, that's fine. I mean, in terms of the seller, everybody has to play by the same rules. There's no way to avoid it.
Yeah.
I mean, if you could put in a clause saying I void my 3-day cooling off period,
I don't think
that wouldn't matter anyway.
Yeah, that wouldn't hold up, though, I don't think, in court, because that's the whole purpose of why they're doing it.
So if it's a mandate to save people from themselves, let's say, okay, fine. I don't know if they really needed it, because at the end of the day, I don't know if an agent, let's say, kind of coerces you or talks you into buying something that you're not ready to buy or you can't afford.
Okay.
The natural way to deal with that as a society is that agent now is looked down upon, and he's not referred, he's not recommended, he's naturally moved out of the ability to sell, because if he gets a reputation as an agent who just talks people into buying over their budget, or just says don't worry, enough of these people complain, it'll weed him out anyways. So that's one in terms of the agent.
Okay.
And then in terms of just people not being ready, I mean, a 3-day cooling off period after you buy it, after it's firm, after you've had your conditions of, let's say, inspection and financing, it's like, do you really need another 3 days? I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal right now with 3, but like anything they do, it could be 7 soon.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like, chances of you getting financing and home inspection done in 3 days, yeah, you could.
No, but it's after that. So you could still have your conditions of financing and home inspection, which is usually a week.
Yeah. So
I mean, less than a buyer's market.
It'd be a lot longer, really. I mean,
just add another 3 days. Like, I don't know if it's necessary. I think it's more of a Band-Aid on top of a bullet wound when it comes to our market with the supply and demand and the interest rates. Because at the end of the day, really, it comes down to, can people afford a house? Why would you walk away after everything is done?
Well, see, and like, I know in our market how we've seen all those scams where there were a lot of fraudulent mortgages. I know, I think CBC or CTV did that. That did that, like, undercover. Where an agent, they went undercover, and the agent, not even the mortgage broker, was like, yeah, don't worry, we'll fudge those income numbers, and we'll do whatever we need to do to get a mortgage. So I mean.
But would they still, if they were getting a mortgage fudge, would they still need another 3 days to walk away, or
I think it's a bigger problem of, in conjunction with, people kind of not thinking straight, not honest realtors. How many realtors do we not know personally, but were in Ontario that got their license during the COVID, and they're no longer practicing?
100%.
Because everybody thinks that everyone under the sun, it's just, you're selling.
Everybody can sell.
Everyone's a realtor. Everyone knows everything about real estate. Oh, I bought a house back in 1955. I know all that there is.
Hey, that was a good year.
Yeah, that was a great year.
That was a very good year.
That was a great year. So I mean, I think that it's kind of a bigger problem with smaller pieces to the puzzle that kind of all work together. Yeah, I mean, like you said, I think the best way to describe it is a Band-Aid fix, because at the end of the day,
it's a Band-Aid fix on something where there's a much deeper issue at play. It's much deeper than somebody going through the entire process of buying a house, right? Getting their mortgage pre-approved, doing a home inspection, doing everything they need to do, and then you have 3 days where you're like, okay, now it's my time to really. Now everything is good
to really
walk away. And at the end of the day, people can use it to, like, there is a way to manipulate the market on the other side here, right? So if it's multiple bids, right, and you pick somebody who's gonna end up walking away during a 3-day period,
but all those buyers have that same kind
of. Everybody does, right?
Yeah.
But now it's harder to weed out people who are not as serious. And they could use it to manipulate the market, saying, "You know what? I'm just gonna walk away after like the 3rd day, and then
maybe another deal comes up better than that one. And
maybe another
more time.
Maybe another deal comes up better. Maybe maybe those buyers that were competing are gone now, and now the seller's left holding the bag.
Yeah,
where they had 3 people interested, they picked one. And they couldn't screen them out for any delays because everybody has the same delay.
True. That is true.
And now everything comes at a cost. Everything's a double-edged sword.
Yeah,
here.
There's, I think, a deeper problem and a deeper issue, and this is a Band-Aid fix. But I mean, I don't know what else, like what kind of initiatives do you think would help to kind of avoid in the future that whole COVID frenzy of people, the fear of losing out with the multiple bids of prices that they shouldn't be, firm with no conditions and not protecting themselves?
Well, that's a very multifaceted question, because
a lot of layers.
A lot of the problems with the COVID buying frenzy had to do with interest rates and cheap money given out by the bank. So I don't know if a 3-day cooling off
that was going to stay low for a long
forever, right? So I don't think
fast forward 3 years, and that was a long time.
So how do you fix just incompetency at other levels of the market, right?
We like to keep this show above board and kind of
not to mention just
dive
in general. Just in general.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, whether you were overstretched, whether you had the fear of missing out, there were a lot of promises made under, I guess, pretense or just not what it is. I mean, if you tell somebody that something is going to stay low
for a long time,
not even for a long time.
Yeah,
I guess shame on us for thinking a long time would be more than 3 years. But I mean, when we're talking about people's biggest asset that now most people, their mortgage have doubled. So I don't know. It's a tough one. I mean, it's like the old saying where you live below your means. And I mean, I don't know. It's so tough. Like we go back and forth on this all the time on like what people could have done different, what agents could have done different, what could have avoided this. I don't think anything could have avoided this.
Well, you know what? I always like the stress test, because as annoying as it is for us, because it doesn't give us the ability. So if somebody can afford 600,000, but the stress test brings them down to 5.
Yeah,
it's annoying for us because it hinders our ability to find them a house they want, because the price range goes down.
Absolutely. But what are we buying for 500,000 in the GTA?
Exactly, nothing. But I get it with what happened now. How many people did we know during the pandemic that because the interest rate was like 1.2, they, instead of buying a house at 700 that they could easily afford, even if the market rates, if the interest rates went up, they didn't buy it because they could afford the payments on $1 million house for only an extra couple hundred a month. Oh, so I could buy this 2-bedroom bungalow for almost the same monthly rate as a 4-bedroom, 2-story house.
Yeah, I think that's what was the biggest issue. And then here we are.
So the stress test even back then was only a couple percentages more than what the rates were.
Yeah.
Right? That's how they always do it. Maybe it should have been a worst case scenario on the stress test, but then you're really going to restrict people on buying properties. But then maybe they'll keep the prices low too.
It's like everything we talk about, it's a double-edged sword where it's, what would be best? I mean, where we're at currently with the housing market and the economy, I don't think that this is best case scenario. I mean, they're talking, decades high of inflation, interest rates, and I mean,
cost of living, price of everything.
Everything. It's just it's too much. So I mean, the only thing, like we always explain to our first time buyers, you're not going to get everything you want on the first one. It's essentially you're getting into the market and then trading up is just paperwork after. So yeah, I mean, in hindsight, those people that were like, okay, if I could pay $1 million and only a couple $100 more, why wouldn't you? It just seemed like common sense.
Money was cheap.
And now where that couple hundred is actually a couple thousand, now it's like, well, okay, what do we do?
It's multiplied by a way bigger percentage now. The interest rates went up too much.
That's the problem. Too quick. And now I wonder, like we go back and forth on this, on the next interest, if they're going to raise it, the Bank of Canada, if it's going to stay the same. Because we were just reading that, okay, inflation's down 8.2, I think, to 6.1. We were reading. So they say. We don't know. I mean, that was the 8th consecutive rate.
Well, food hasn't gone down.
So it's like, okay, well, yeah, they say it might not, but for as far as we know, for years to come, it could be increasing. So it's just like
they also do manipulate that number. They go with the basket of goods, and everybody knows the basket of goods changes depending on what's in the basket.
Eggs are still 85 cents in a carton.
Of course, eggs are still cheap, but it's not like there's a shortage or anything.
No, of course.
But like you said, so a first-time home buyer now, so anecdotal story without disclosing the area or whatever. That our first-time home buyers are looking at a place that is now under power of sale. And what had happened was somebody had purchased it in the heat, and they rebuilt it all from scratch. Right? The problem was you could tell as soon as you walk in that the bank kind of just kicked them out. Whatever you have done, you leave it. Don't touch it.
Which is unfortunate.
Unfortunate.
All that money, all that time, such heartache. But
and now you have a half-finished house.
Yeah.
That's still. It's not moving.
No.
It's pretty much above what the market would demand it is because of how small it is. So they built a brand new house on a small lot with small square footage. It's not moving. So just looking at that for some clients of ours that are looking for their first house, it's like, what do you do? So you could get it inspected.
Yeah,
you're gonna find problems.
We're not home inspectors. We don't claim to be, but I mean, we've sold and bought our fair share of homes. So we always recommend the home inspection, but we always go in and we're not going to say all the little tricks we do. That's what separates us from the other agents.
But we see it.
But we do a lot of our own due diligence, so that way when a home inspection comes around, there is no surprise that we've pretty much kind of seen all of it. So there's a lot of things to look for. I mean, well, giving one away, we always like to look on the unfinished basements.
Yes.
We like to look.
So it was unfinished.
Yeah.
And we don't know exactly what they did with the bottom foundation of it. But it looks like they either re-poured cement in and just smooth it over, or they could have dug out the old cracked foundation. We don't know because they're gone.
Yeah.
Right now it's being sold under power of sale. So how do you find that out? There's some key indicators on the corners of the walls, the effervescence that kind of builds when there's moisture.
Kind of salty, chalky, where you know that the
there was moisture.
Has a lot of, so it could have been that it was waterproofed incorrectly from the inside to avoid high cost of digging up around the whole foundation, something like that. I mean, we have a lot of clients that are, into the fixer upper or pretty hands on, which is fine. But it's, Mr. and Mrs. Smith that just want to move in ready, that don't anticipate those costs. You got to be looking out for this stuff because it could have been a botched reno that they ran out of money.
You're going to see a lot of these lately. You're going to see a lot of places being sold either power sale or just like from a numbered company who bought as an investment that went in at the heat, realized that now they got to put more money in than it's worth because prices did go down.
Yeah.
And you're going to buy somebody's like DIY special.
And that's not to say, like when we say power, we think that it's going to be cheap. I personally think that they'll still sell for close for list, if not just shy of it. Because of the lack of inventory. So it's not really a deal when you think of that, you're like, oh yeah, that house is $800,000. I'm getting it for $400,000. It's like, no.
It would be nice.
Yeah, of course. Of course. I want my cake and eat it too. So I mean,
the bank's not going to lose that much money.
No, they can't. It's just, it is what it is. So I mean, it'll be interesting to see because the market is, the highs and lows. Right now we're in a low. It'll be interesting to see on the next kind of peak where it goes, what will be in place to kind of protect buyers and sellers, like how BC is doing. And I mean, it's all hypothetical. We talk from our experience on what we think. I think that, we will see another kind of valley, or right now we're in the valley, another peak.
So you think it's bottomed out? Is this going to be?
I think we're pretty much there, maybe a little bit, but the people we talk to that are so unrealistic that they're like, oh, it's going to go down still, 100, 200,000. Prices are still higher than what they were pre-COVID.
Yeah, they are.
They're not going anywhere. It's not going to be like, we're not going to see the crazy jump, but we're also not going to see a crazy decline. So when we have first-time buyers or anyone just trying to move or sell, it's like what we talked about in the last podcast. If a house goes for sale on a street that you've been looking at for years and you're like, oh, well, I'm going to wait it out.
Just get it because you're going to lose it.
Yeah. Well, like if that house is on that particular street, that particular style, buy it. It's time in the market.
It's what you wanted.
Absolutely.
Just pull the trigger, even if, but be responsible.
Yeah.
I mean,
don't overdo it. Don't stretch yourself thin.
Yeah. If you're going in and there's like 10 offers and you really got to out leverage yourself, you know what?
Take a step back.
Take a step back. That's not worth it.
Absolutely.
Give yourself your own 3-day cooling off period, not a mandated one.
Exactly.
Just one with your own,
Yeah, I agree.
Don't buy emotionally, buy logically.
Yeah, and I mean, 90% of people, obviously, it is all emotion. And
people live off emotion, right?
You got to just step back, and I mean, have good people in your corner that when you're doing something. Good realtor.
You need realtors that ground you and don't just try to push a sale.
Yeah, just to close a commission, and it's a lot more, and I think that's what we do differently. We're people, like we help people. Obviously we're doing it for a living, but we don't put our needs above anyone else's.
Well, we want them to call us again and refer us. So why
That's
would
how we know we've done a good job.
Exactly. Why would we put ourselves in a position where these
to make
people,
a few?
How many clients do we know that call us now?
Yep.
That had other realtors.
Yeah.
They're not calling those people back.
No, you have to learn from experience, and I mean, I think that's what we do differently. What you see is what you get.
Yeah.
So I think that's about it.
And on that note, another episode done.
All right, guys. We'll catch you on the next one. Let us know on the bottom what else to talk about. We noticed that you guys love when we have the animal content when we're on showings. Zeus Baker. We're gonna show Maxie, Stella. There's a lot. They're coming.
They're coming.
So like and subscribe. We'll see you guys on the next one.
Later, guys.